Going to start with a quote, a post on a certain person's failing social media platform. See if you can guess who wrote this grotesque piece of work. Quote, the museums throughout Washington, but all over the country, are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. The Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished and downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. We are not going to allow this to happen, and I have instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process that has been done with colleges and universities, where tremendous progress has been made. This country cannot be woke because woke is broke. We have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including in our museums. Unquote. Oh, and thank you for your attention in this matter, moron. Let's see where to start. Where to start. Woke is broke, crack is whack, right? Yes, he's going to do the same thing to our museums that he has done to our institutions of higher learning. He's going to blackmail them. He is going to threaten them. He is going to extort money out of them. So he, this small, insecure little man, whitewashes a history that maligns people like him. That this vicious, ignorant, uneducated scum, a man so completely lacking intellectual curiosity, empathy, artistic sensibility, or historical knowledge and perspective, has any power whatsoever over our cultural institutions is an abomination and should be abhorrent to anybody who believes in the promise of a more perfect union, because these things actually do define us. They define who we are in this moment. They define who we've been, and they define who we aspire to be. We cannot get better if we fail to acknowledge and atone for what we got wrong. And the least we can do is face what our forebears got so horrifically wrong. This country was founded on the genocide of the native population and the kidnapping, torture, and enslavement of another population. Yes, we need to talk about the horrors of slavery. These are historical facts. We cannot elide them. We cannot ignore them to make a certain class of people feel better about the fact that they continue to benefit from a system that was never completely dismantled. Our founding document benefits states that enslaved human beings to the detriment of those that did not. This is a historical fact. A majority of the founding fathers enslaved other human beings, and one of the most admired, Thomas Jefferson, raped a woman he owned as property and then enslaved the children she bore him. These are historical facts. White America enslaved Black Americans for 8 generations, and Black Americans are still paying the price. And whether white Americans want to believe it or not, and certainly whether Donald Trump wants to believe it or not, that is still having a negative impact on white Americans too. That this person has any say over who we are, that this person has any influence on who we become, is one of the most unforgivable things that has ever happened in American history. Let's dive in. How's everybody doing? Yeah, I apologize. I got a little wound up. I saw that post very shortly before the show started and kind of got to me a little bit. Welcome to tonight's episode of Mary Trump Live. It's very good to have you here. Going to shift gears a little bit. Despite Donald's grandstanding, because that's sort of one of the few things he does well, he made no progress at all when it comes to the horrific situation in Ukraine, thanks to the illegal invasion of Russia. When Donald can't live up to his promises, when he fails miserably, what does he do? He looks for somebody else to blame because nothing is ever his fault. Nothing is his responsibility. He is only to get credit for the good things he's done. Who am I kidding? He's never done anything good. He only takes credit for good things other people have done. So here, of course, is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, whose favorite activity, because she's very much like her boss, is to pin Donald's bad policies on Democrats, the media, or, anybody not her boss. Today was more of the same. And apparently it looks like the press is to blame. The lamestream media, fake news. They're to blame for Donald's lack of success when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine situation. Take a look at this.
The left-wing media has been actively rooting against the President of the United States in the pursuit of peace. Initially, the media ridiculously claimed that President Trump was somehow beholden to Russia for even agreeing to have a face-to-face discussion with President Putin inside of the United States. The media said President Trump was making a grave mistake by, quote, legitimizing Putin. They were aghast that President Trump would treat another world leader like a world leader. The media relentlessly attacked President Trump and claimed he suffered a, quote, major defeat for not immediately emerging with a final agreement, even though he said heading into that meeting, this was a meeting to listen and to understand how to move the ball forward. All weekend following those historic U.S.-Russia bilateral talks, we listened to clueless pundits on television trying but failing to claim that the president had failed. The so-called experts in the foreign policy establishment, whose record is nothing but endless wars, trillions of wasted taxpayer dollars, and dead Americans, have the nerve to try and lecture President Trump, who has solved 7 global conflicts in 7 months.
Oh, sure he has. I have to say, I'm quite grateful to her for repeating all of the things the media has said about Donald's horrible failures in the last few days. That was very helpful. It's like a little primer on how bad Donald is at stuff. Well done, Caroline Leavitt. Well done, Caroline Leavitt. I always get her confused with some historical figure. So let's see. Is the corporate media that has essentially spent the last decade normalizing Donald, waiting for him to become presidential and cutting him slack at every single turn, really rooting against the pursuit of peace? Or, bear with me, is it perhaps that Donald has done absolutely nothing to make sure that peace becomes possible? This diatribe is classic Leavitt, and again, she's just taking a page out of Donald's book. Deflect, blame, distract. Here's the interesting thing, though. We're seeing this with the Jeffrey Epstein file debacle, as we do here. It doesn't seem really to be working the way it used to. The press continued to press with questions about Russia, asking why Donald hadn't simply called Putin to arrange a meeting while the other leaders were in the room with him at the White House. Like, what is he waiting for, right? Like, if the Alaska summit was the triumph the Trump regime is claiming it was, then obviously Donald has all of the leverage here, right? Well, of course, he doesn't have any leverage at all because, as has been true for the last several decades, he lives in Vladimir Putin's back pocket. Apparently, that question about why they didn't just set a meeting while basically the entire, all of the leaders of the EU and President Zelensky of Ukraine were in the room with Donald. Apparently that question enraged Leavitt. And once again, she faulted the press for the entire fiasco. Take a look.
If the point is to get everybody on the same page, why wouldn't Trump just take the call from Putin while the other leaders were in the room? He said it would be disrespectful to do that. But why is it disrespectful?
With all due respect, only a reporter from the New York Times would ask a question like that, Sean. The president met with all of these European leaders at the White House 48 hours after sitting down with President Putin on American soil. In fact, there was so much progress in the readout that was given to these European leaders immediately following his meeting with President Putin that every single one of them got on a plane 48 hours later and flew to the United States of America. So these leaders, who this war is in their backyard, are very grateful that the president took that call and that he was there to provide them with a readout of Russia's thinking on this, something that was not done by the previous administration at all.
Oh, yes, they were very grateful. The European leaders rushed to the United States right after Donald's meeting with Putin because they know that Donald is an idiot who is so easily manipulable that the person who most recently has his ear is the person with the most influence, and they know how much influence Putin has over Donald. They were there to do damage control. Unfortunately, because they're dealing with a very powerful toddler who could wish them into the cornfield, the mission came with a lot of bowing and scraping and false compliments that kind of made me sick. I mean, it may be true that the liberal New York Times was the only outlet that would ask that question, a question that I think seemed completely reasonable. But that's because the White House press room is usually full of plants from organizations like Fox and Newsmax and other right-wing propaganda outfits. So the job of a journalist, at least last I checked, was to ask those kinds of questions so that the American people could be informed, even if the administration doesn't want them to be. So no matter what Leavitt does here, she cannot spin this in the way that Donald would want her to. The only person responsible for the failures that occurred in Alaska and in that meeting with Zelensky and European leaders is Donald. Because again, he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't listen to experts. And he is so far out of his depth that I worry for us. So he's incapable of making any progress having to do with conflicts abroad. So he is going to double down on his efforts to try to make things worse for everybody here, and that includes cracking down on immigration. Donald and his brown-shirted thugs continue to try to crack down on immigrants in the U.S., threatening major cities with hostile takeovers like the one we're seeing in Washington, D.C. right now. Boston was at the forefront of such an attempt. Attorney General Pam Bondi demanded the city comply with her directives or face major funding cuts or even prosecution. Today, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu delivered a defiant response to the Trump regime outside of City Hall. Watch this.
Boston received a letter from the Attorney General of the United States on official letterhead from the federal government threatening to prosecute city officials and withhold federal funds unless we cooperate with carrying out mass deportations. These threats are serious and consequential. But our same communities have told me loud and clear that silence in the face of oppression is not an option. The U.S. Attorney General asked for a response by today. So here it is. Stop attacking our cities to hide your administration's failures. Unlike the Trump administration, Boston follows the law. And Boston will not back down from who we are and what we stand for. We will not back away from our community that has made us the safest major city in the country and a leading example of why cities around the country make this country safer, healthier, and more prosperous for all Americans.
That is what blue state governors and blue city mayors need to be doing on a daily basis. And here's a suggestion: do it preemptively. Don't wait until you get threatened by the likes of Pam Bondi. Make your position known before the threats come. Prepare your citizens for what is going to happen if the DOJ continues this trend of attacking blue cities because they are diverse and, generally speaking, hate Donald's guts, and because we care about the immigrants who live in our city, and we will stand up for them. This is the kind of resistance that needs to become more and more common. Don't wait for the attack. Attack first. Leaders like Gavin Newsom and J.B. Pritzker and Michelle Wu are increasingly crucial in this fight against the escalation of the tactics currently being deployed by the Trump regime. The most recent such escalation is Donald's plan to force immigrants to prove that they've made positive contributions to society during their citizenship review. Oh, I have an idea. I have a really good idea. Ready? Ready for this? Donald, you prove your positive contributions to society. See how easy that was? Because then you would have to leave. Because you're nothing but a destructive, malign force in this country and indeed in this world. But yes, this is what he's actually trying to do. A new U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services memo calls for a more quote unquote holistic approach. What? Do they even know what that? That's such a woke word. My God. Yes, a more holistic approach to assessing the quote good moral character unquote of an immigrant seeking naturalization. You know, seriously, I think they're just trying to make us insane, because it's like for somebody as illiterate, culturally as illiterate, for Donald to be deciding what is art, and for somebody who is amoral and cruel and grotesque as Donald to be asking other people who have worked more in one day than he has in his whole life to prove their good moral characters. It's a bridge too far. Like, how do we even process that? Doug Rand, and also let's leave aside, like, how is that assessed anyway? Doug Rand, a former senior USCIS official during the Biden administration, said this policy is designed to scare legal immigrants from applying for American citizenship. And require officers to find more reasons to deny applications. Rand said, quote, they're trying to increase the grounds for denial of U.S. citizenship by kind of torturing the definition of good moral character to encompass extremely harmless behavior, unquote. Donald and the State Department also just announced today that they would be revoking 6,000 student visas in a further push to root out as many immigrants as possible. The specificities of what warranted the revocation of these visas is still unclear, but we will stay on this. I, for one, am very curious to know what countries these students come from. What color is their skin? What religions do they practice? I am very, very curious to find out those demographic details about these young people who may very well have contributed enormously to this country, but because clearly Donald and his State Department and his regime are allowed to do whatever they want, we're never going to find out. And more promising young people who could have contributed to this country in ways immigrants have for generations, well, It's just going to be us. And it's not looking very good, is it? Donald's DC takeover also continues apace, and it seems it's going to get worse before it gets better. The 800 National Guard troops already there will soon be joined by hundreds more sent by Republican governors who seem intent upon trying to out-fascist each other in an effort to kiss Donald's ass more comprehensively. Despite Donald and Levitt's claims that they're targeting high crime areas in DC, it seems that National Guard members are just hanging out in areas that are typically frequented by tourists. Near the Washington Monument over the weekend, troops posed for photos with tourists. They frequented the National Mall and other large monuments, to name just a few. So if the current guards are doing nothing, what are the additional few hundred going to be up to? Well, the best we can hope for is that they will be doing nothing as well. Because at the end of the day, this is a ridiculous show of force. This is, again, another solution in search of a problem that doesn't exist. This is an abuse of power. This is Donald softening the ground to convince people of his preferred narrative that such shows of force, such abuses of power are necessary because cities like DC are such criminal hellscapes. But we also have to worry about what happens if, in the home state of these National Guards, a natural catastrophe occurs. So, while they're needed in their home states to help people, which is what National Guards people sign up for, they will be doing nothing in DC. Or worst of all, maybe they won't keep doing nothing. It depends how desperate Donald gets, because remember, there's no such thing as worst. There's only worse. And the more Donald feels like he's going down, the more he's capable of, and the more determined he will be to take the rest of us down with him. At this point, it's clear that those actually making arrests in DC are desperate to hit a quota, which is really not how any of this is supposed to work. But it isn't just the arrests that are escalating. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, just listen to the crime blotter, which Caroline Levitt reads out every day. It is obscene and it is absurd. But the criminal prosecutions are escalating as well. With U.S. Attorney in Washington, Jeanine Pirro, in charge, how should we be surprised? No. She's instructed her prosecutors to maximize criminal charges against anyone arrested in the crackdown on street crime and charge them with the stiffest federal crimes whenever possible. You'll remember, it is now a federal crime to throw a sandwich in Washington, D.C. I wish I were kidding. I mean, it's funny, but it's not. The Times reports, quote, typically prosecutors in Washington have had to drop or abandon many criminal cases because the evidence is insufficient to win a conviction. Ms. Pirro's new, more aggressive approach seems to signal that when in doubt, her office will file felony charges first and let the cases proceed to court, unquote. Yes, another solution in search of a problem. These people are going to stop at nothing. Nothing. Because they have the power. And they have the megaphone. And they understand better, I think, than the Democrats do. Well, at least congressional Democrats, that even with power, you still need to win the war of optics, and you still need to win the messaging war. So the one thing we must insist upon is that the Democrats do not allow Donald and the Trump regime to shove their preferred narrative down the throats of the American people. Because this is America. And these guys do not represent us in any way, shape, or form. It's Tuesday. Guys, proud of me? It's 2 days in a row I've remembered what day it is. Woo! At the risk of repeating myself, I'm going to say that it feels like Friday. So, we really need today's emotional support moment, but first, breathe. You know how it's done. You have to inhale first. I think that's typically how breathing's, right? You have to inhale first, and then you have to exhale. And kind of do that in sequence, right? So whatever makes you feel better. Whichever way of breathing makes you feel better. Because we have a new kind of criminal to talk about. I want you guys to meet Cecil, the seagull. He cannot be trusted on the beaches of Maine. No. Cecil cannot be. I'm actually a little worried they're going to put him in an orange jumpsuit, the poor little guy. Let's hope not. Here's a report from Portland's News Center.
Seagulls are a staple on Maine's beaches this time of year, and if you're not careful, you might lose your lunch.
There's a thief flying around Waterford Beach Park.
The seagull came, flew that way, took the cookie.
He has a yellow beak, beady eyes, and the determination of someone who hasn't eaten in years.
That I'm eating my cookie under my cover up because it will steal my cookie.
But really, it's obvious he hasn't missed a meal in a while.
And you can tell because he's the fattest around.
This is Cecil, the seagull by the seashore. He takes food and no prisoners.
I could feel his wings too. It was like so close. We've had incidents of him like landing on people's head and taking food out of their mouth.
The town putting up these signs warning people to keep an eye out for Cecil and his cronies.
We did speak with animal control, and the reality is it's a wild animal. It's causing no true harm, so there's not much we can do but laugh along with him.
I stand in solidarity with Cecil. He's svelte. Seriously? Cecil rocks. And Cecil is a he, not an it. Thank you very much. I'm a beach person. I've been going to beaches my entire life, and leave the seagulls alone and let them eat whatever they want. And if you are irresponsible enough to eat food in front of Cecil, you're going to get whatever's coming to you. And quite frankly, that little guy's got really good aim. Things could go much worse than that. So just give into it. My word. The drama. Go, Cecil. Go. Okay. All right. Let's get to it. Questions, comments, etc. Julia, member for 3 months. Thank you so very much. Comment, glad to be here. I enjoyed the meeting on Sunday. Well, we are very glad to have you here, and Sunday was awesome. So thank you, Julia. It's good to see you. Night Owl, Ohio, a member for 2 months. Thank you very much. Comment, thank you for all you do, Mary and team. I love getting my news with a side of sarcasm. Just a side. Sometimes I feel like the news is the side, but that's because I'm feeling a little sarcastic these days. Anyway, to continue the comment, it's the only way not to cry these days. Yeah, we need to laugh. We need to put things in perspective. We need to be sarcastic, but it's a lot of serious stuff, isn't it? Ethan, thank you as always, Ethan, for being a member for 2 months. That's excellent. Mida Cheryl, thank you as always. Gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Fabulous. And Julia is back with a gift of 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Thank you so much, Julia. Mida Cheryl is back. You guys are awesome. Comment, Mary. Question, Mary. Has Donnie Dum Dum ever not lied? No. So, brief, to the point. Well, I mean, his whole life is a lie, right? He basically, I mean, not when he was little, but since the time he was a fairly young child, he believed that he was actually smart and better than everybody else. So yeah, whole life, a lie. He's Divine Scattered. Thank you so much as always. Oh, this is good. Happy to Taco Tuesday. I prefer saying it when the D is not silent. So yeah, de Taco Tuesday is my preferred pronunciation. Thank you, His Divine Scott. Michael Super Sticker, thank you so very much for that. Excellent. Mars getting some sun. Let me try again. Mars getting some sun. That was better. Thank you very, very much. That's quite generous. Comment, you nailed it about Donald. Stay mighty, stay strong. Thank you. He's so easy to get, though, unfortunately. But yes, we're going to stay mighty and stay strong, all of us. His Divine Scatter, thank you so very much again. That is phenomenal. Comment, you are correct in assuming a good gaggle of people didn't know Donald is an adjudicated rapist. My mom never even heard of E. Jean Carroll trial. She's apolitical and in a bubble like so many Americans. Yeah, I mean, this is the problem with the superfluity of news sources, the siloing of information. It is extremely easy to get in a bubble and stay there. So it's a problem that we need to figure out how to solve. Susan, thank you so much as always. Gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. Fantastic. Julia, again, thank you. Really, that's so great of you. Comment, I hear Putin said a body double. I heard that too, and I'm going to say I don't agree that that's what happened. Because why? Because Putin loves spending time with Donald. Why? Because he's incredibly good at manipulating Donald. He knows he's going to get everything he wants from Donald. And I think I said this yesterday, the day before, very much like my grandfather, Putin gets off on humiliating people. So I'm pretty sure that was Putin. Like, why miss the fun, you know? In the middle of nowhere, member for 3 months. Thank you so very, very much. Comment, oh my God, KK Caroline is so gross. Yes, she is. Question, why do all those MAGA liars seem like they're yelling at me? Because they are. That's why. They are. They're just like, it's all they know how to yell, 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 yell. Drown everything else out. You know, that's like it's a version of just like sticking their fingers in their ears and just saying random nonsense to shut everybody else out. It's just appalling. Jules for Tabs for Vets. Sorry, wrong. Jules plays Tabs for Vets. Sorry about that. Thank you so very much. That's awesome. Comment, I have said for 10 years that if the great I am were to be God himself, it still wouldn't fill this black hole. And you, Julie, would be right. This man I refer to him as a black hole of need. There is literally not enough light in the universe to sustain him or to fill him up. If he weren't such a viciously horrible, cruel, destructive, mass murdering person, I would almost feel bad for him. But there's literally no reason to feel bad for him because just think about the damage he's done. And if you want to feel a little bit better about how horrible everything is, just know that he is the most miserable person on the planet. So I know that doesn't really help much, but it would be much worse if he were enjoying himself. Julia gifted another Mary Trump Media membership. Thank you, Julia. That is amazing. And yet again, Julia, you're outdoing yourself. It's a love being from Mass fee. Yeah, Massachusetts is awesome. I went to Tufts University in Medford, Mass. I lived in Somerville. I love Somerville. And I love Tufts. And since I was 4, I've spent lots of time on Cape Cod. So Massachusetts, particularly Cape Cod, but also Boston. One of my favorite states for sure. And Cape Cod is one of my favorite places on the whole planet. Jen is a member for 2 months. Thank you so much, Jen. Comment, thank you, Mary and crew, for all you do. You're welcome. And we actually love doing what we do. So I'm glad you appreciate it. Ethan, again, thank you so much. Gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. That's fantastic. Dumpster Diving Dragon, member for 3 months. Thank you very, very much. Comment, oh my sparks. Hi, love to you and yours. Love, I'm going to guess that's a dumpster diving dragon emoji. There should be a dumpster diving dragon emoji by all rights. Julie, you are on a tear. Thank you for that. Mary, thank you very much, Mary. Comment, make Donald take the citizenship test fee. 3 cat emojis. Yeah, he'd fail. He wouldn't be able to answer one question. Like, why? Don't get me started. The fact that there are literally 3 requirements to be president of the United States and none of them is substantive makes my head explode. You have to be 35. You have to have been born in the United States of America, and you have to have lived in the United States for 15 years. Woohoo! Don't have to pass an FBI background check. Doesn't matter if you have a criminal record. You don't have to know anything. Yeah, shocking that we are where we are. Hey, Dems, if you ever get back into power, please codify this stuff. Thank you. In the middle of nowhere, thank you so very much. 1, for being a super sticker, and 2, for that very generous donation. And again, in the middle of nowhere, thank you. Comment, I realize that all this stuff is calculated, but sometimes it feels like they have all the crazy things on Post-its on a wall and just throw a dart to determine today's crisis. Oh, actually, I don't think it's quite that organized. I think they might probably just have a bunch of Post-its like in a baseball cap, and they just throw them up in the air. But, same basic idea. You're just giving them more credit than I would. Yeah, it's just, hey, what crisis can we rant about today that doesn't exist? And then let's make it a crisis. That is literally the United States government right now. Nanner, thank you so much for being a member for 3 months. Comment too many topics, so we'll just say hi. That's okay. Hi. Yeah, there's kind of a lot going on, always. Donna, thank you so very, very much for that. That is a snacks for, Cecil or Cecil, I'm not sure. Fee, he is adorable. I have no doubt that he is. And I'm glad he's getting snacks. Alyssa gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Thank you so much, Alyssa. That's great. Gordy Anot is a member for 1 month. Thank you so much. The comment is practice total frontal sarcasm. Absolutely. It's sort of, what's the word? It feels like a chainmail sarcasm does. Yeah. Definitely makes me feel like it's like a protective mechanism sometimes, sarcasm. Susan, thank you again so much. Comment, shout out to this amazing Maritime Media community. You rock. You guys do rock. You really, really do. We're very lucky to have all of you. Being Nancy, thank you so much. That's amazing. Comment, Cecil has chutzpah. His cousin Jonathan is more philosophical. Right? I kind of love that. Gary, Canadian in the house, elbows up. A super sticker. Thank you so much, Gary. Canada also rocks. And finally, Toral, a super sticker. Thank you so much for that, Toral. That's amazing. And wow, I think that does it for us tonight, guys. We made it. Oh, we made it. It's Tuesday. So yeah, we have a ways to go. But 2 days, that's good. First of all, thank you to everybody who is watching on YouTube, streaming on Twitter, streaming on my Substack, The Good in Us. To everybody listening to the podcast, thank you so much for that. To all of our new members, everybody gifting memberships, to everybody who is a super sticker, and everybody giving us donations. You guys are incredible. Just really quickly, easiest way to support us is subscribe to the channel. That gives you, it doesn't cost anything. It gives you access to all of the public content on our channel, which is a lot, quite frankly. We have a live show. Mary Trump Live is Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. We have an Ask Mary Anything with Reason on Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern. And every day we have 2, sometimes 3 other videos dropping. So another really easy way to support us is to like and share those videos and comment on them, because the the YouTube algorithm is pesky sometimes, and we need a little help trying to figure out how to push through that. To our amazing moderators for moderating so expertly and being so generous with their time and helping create this incredible community. And of course, to my, I'm running out of adjectives, team. Like, seriously. It's sort of indescribable how amazing my team is. So thanks, guys, for everything. It's been it's already another amazing week. I'm looking forward to the rest of the week. That does it. I will see you all here tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern for Mary Trump Live. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind. Have a great night.